I'd like to call this special council meeting to order. Before we proceed further, Councillor Flagg, would you do the land acknowledgement, please?
Happy to do so, Your Worship. We acknowledge that the land upon which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Adirondack, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe people. We are the beneficiaries of ancient agreements, such as the dish with one spoon between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, who agreed to share the abundance of the land through peace, friendship, and mutual respect. The two were wampum, by which the Haudenosaunee welcomed settlers and agreed to share the land in mutual respect, and the Treaty of Niagara, considered a fundamental document by First Nations in all future relations and treaties with the British. We recognize that we have a responsibility to be stewards of the land in cooperation and collaboration with the Indigenous people, not only for one generation, but for all generations to come. We understand that we have an obligation to learn the lessons of our history, educate ourselves about the experiences of the Indigenous people, and seek opportunities to heal the wounds that will result in reconciliation with our Indigenous brothers and sisters. Many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people live and work in Fort Erie. We stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands upon which we live. We have the good fortune to live in a land of such abundance, diversity, and beauty. Let us be vigilant in protecting Turtle Island.
Thank you very much. And Madam Clerk, the roll call, please.
All members of council are present. Mayor Redekop.
Thank you. I just have two announcements. The first is that the Niagara Regional Police are holding a public open house at the Niagara Penn Center on Tuesday, May the 13th, which is tomorrow, from 1 o'clock until 6 o'clock p.m. It's an opportunity to experience a behind-the-scenes look at the Niagara Regional Police Service and learn more about the work that they do within our communities. They're also going to have opportunity to look at police vehicles, meet some officers, watch some live demonstrations by the K9 unit, which is always exciting. So that's tomorrow, Penn Center, 1 o'clock to 6 p.m. And then I also wanted to belatedly wish all mothers in our community Happy Mother's Day. Our last council meeting was sometime beforehand, and although it was yesterday, we should thank mothers every day of the year because they're so fundamental to our society. That takes us to declarations of pecuniary interest. If there are none, that takes us to presentations and delegations. And this evening we have the chair of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, Mackenzie Arts, to give us some background information on what they've been up to and some of the activities they've been engaged in. Good evening.
And decorating contest. We had an elementary school and a secondary school category, and the students decorated a pumpkin and competed. Then we lit up the Peace Bridge in the winning school's colors. So Stevensville once, we had the bridge lit up in yellow and blue, and it was really awesome just to have the families come join us to celebrate their winning there. Then in December, we did a Letters to Santa initiative. where children wrote letters to Santa and dropped them off here or at the libraries, and we received over 200 letters in which MIAC wrote back as Santa. Then we also held a free skate in December, and we held our first ever tween dance in January, where we had over 80 kids attend, and it was just over at the Boys and Girls Club. Then in February, we had MIAC members attend and help plan the Everyday Influencer Conference, where we were able to connect with leaders from all across Niagara, which was a really cool opportunity for us. As well, we did another free skate in March, and then we had MIAC members attend the G-Fest Culture Night, which was really exciting for us to just be able to celebrate diversity in our community. Then we held another tween dance, having over 90 youth attend. We held an Earth Day cleanup at the Sugar Bowl Park just in April. We did a tree planting where we planted 10 trees at the Stevensville Conservation Area. We did an Earth Day social media campaign where we posted daily Earth Day tips. We helped out with the Town of Fort Erie tree giveaway just last weekend, and currently we have 2 scholarships, one for elementary school and one for secondary that we are running. Then we just want to tell you a bit about some of the goals that we've accomplished. So last time I was here, I went through a list of goals that we were currently working on, and with the support of all of you and from our community and our growing committee, we've been able to accomplish those. So we've been able to allow youth to build community through engaging activities. We've been able to accomplish this through our tween dances specifically and our pumpkin carving contests that were just fun but also safe and engaging activities that we were able to do. We united youth through activism as we attended the Everyday Influencer Conference, and some of us helped run it, like I said, and we were able to bring youth together towards one common goal of leadership through that. As well, we've done this through our social media activism campaigns. We brought attention to the problems affecting Fort Erie's youth. We felt that our talent showcase really helped us to highlight talented youth in our community and helped build a better representation for youth and show youth in a positive light. We've reinforced a positive attitude through the community of youth, and we feel that all of our events have aimed to accomplish this, and this is, of course, an ongoing goal that we're always working towards. We've assisted town staff with initiatives involving youth, such as the Solar Eclipse Food Drive, that was a huge success here, and the tree giveaway. And we've really been working at setting a positive example for youth in our community by getting involved in various volunteering initiatives, our Letters to Santa campaign, and overall just really by building our committee and building our presence in our community, which brings us to the next one of building our community presence. We've submitted and published multiple newspaper articles. We volunteered for different events. We were in the Santa Claus Parade. We were even able to hold a table at the G-Fest open house where we were able to talk about MIAC. And we just feel that we've been able to make ourselves more well known in the community, as a lot of people didn't know what MIAC was or who we were before COVID, but we feel like we've been at a good spot with that now.
We've had so much momentum through this past year, and our committee really wants to continuously connect with the community, fighting for pressing issues and hosting/helping run events to spread positive attitudes in Fort Erie. Some of our goals for the next year, continuing through this year, would be to build event consistency, continuing current events that have helped us build a lot of our base, establishing stronger school connections with our elementary schools, being creative with our advertising, continuously building up our local leadership initiatives, and to continue to serve and give stuff back to our town in Fort Erie.
Now we just want to tell you about 2 of our upcoming initiatives. So we are going to be doing our 2nd annual Youth Talent Showcase on June 11th from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Leisureplex Banquet Hall. We will be having a youth art display from local schools and organizations, youth performances, singers, instruments, dancing, theater, and more. And we will also be having family-friendly games and activities and involvement from local organizations like the Fort Erie Fire Department and hopefully a few more. So we'd love to see all of you there. I will forward some more information, and we have little cards that we can leave here as well.
We're also trying to do a elementary school food drive competition. So this would be running through the beginning of June, and all the food collected would be donated to COPE. Schools would compete to see who collects the most, and the winning school would receive $500 donation for art/sports equipment. We were hoping this would encourage students to give back year-round, not just for school holidays.
In the past, we did this elementary food drive competition, and the feedback that we got from the schools was that they loved that it wasn't just around Christmas or around Halloween, like food drives typically are. And we got the same feedback from COPE, as they said the same thing. They get donations so much around Christmas and Thanksgiving, but not typically at the end of the school year and in summertime. So we feel that this is a good way for us to step in and help out.
So if you want to support our committee and stay up to date with our events, please follow our Instagram at Fort Erie MIAC. And if you have any other questions or want to reach out for us for any other reason, you can email our MIAC account, our chair Mackenzie, or any adult advisors, you'll see the emails up on the screen there.
And as we share all of this, we just really want to make it known that we're really grateful for your support and the support of the community. We could not have done any of this without you and without the people that come out to our events and help us advertise for our events. And as I come to my last final weeks on MIAC, I just want to truly thank all of you for the amazing opportunity that MIAC has been for me. I've really been able to make a lot of cool community connections and grow my leadership skills being on MIAC, and I know that it's benefiting so many other youth as well. So we just really want you to know that we're super grateful. So thank you, and thank you for the opportunity that we could come and speak today.
Thank you very much, Mackenzie and William. And I must say, this is undoubtedly the most active Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee that we've had. We've never had a full complement of 19 members, and I know that they're all very much engaged in a variety of activities. I know that your sister is at a meeting tonight being recognized by the Optimist Club.
Yes, she is.
As an elementary school student who's exceeded, along with others. And I know that there are a number of other members who are really engaged in things going on. It looks like you've been grooming William for greater responsibilities. And I noticed that the contacts, the adult contacts, happen to be William's father and mother, who have really put in a lot of time and energy to assist you folks. But the number of activities that you've been engaged in and the profile that you've been gaining in the community is fantastic. And I just hope that we can keep that going, even though you're gone next year. And we wish you the best of luck in whatever the future holds for you. You too, William, but you've got a ways to go yet. Any members of council have any questions? Councillor Christensen.
Is it have any questions?
We're going to give you latitude this evening.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you. I've had the pleasure of going to the talent show and to the influencer conference. To say that the work you've done is outstanding is a real understatement, and I am not being condescending or anything. The influencer conference in particular, that was a quality. The engagement, the facilitation, the concepts, that was absolutely worthy of anything from any university and any community development organization in North America. I congratulate you, and I want to thank you for your leadership, Mackenzie. Thank you, William, for coming on board. And please take it back to MIAC. I'm actually very optimistic about the future when people like yourselves are involved. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Christensen. Anyone else? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop, through you to Mackenzie. And I'm sorry I forgot your name.
William.
William. Wonderful presentation, wonderful organization. My question is that a few years ago, I sat on the Seniors Advisory Committee, and that was just before COVID, and then COVID came. But a lot of good ideas were coming around at that time about connecting, like not just have senior activities, but have senior activities with youth involvement, like a commingling of the different ages and things like that. And that was starting to take some moving forward, and then COVID happened, and then it's no longer there. Would that be something you could take back to your organization to consider? And I'm not thinking about football, by the way, with seniors. I'm thinking about like a euchre game or shuffleboard. That's what we were kind of talking about then. An activity so that we would be mixing, there'd be different ages involved in that, and just hoping that maybe you can take that back to your group if they're interested.
Yeah, for sure. I think that would definitely be something that we're interested in, especially with the talent showcase coming up. Like, definitely you're all welcome to come to that, and we'd love to continue partnering in the future. So.
Well, I will tell you, there's a lot of seniors that love karaoke, so be prepared.
Perfect.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Mackenzie and William.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to a successful next year after we get past your events for the balance of this year.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us then to consideration of bylaws, and Councillor Dubanow, you have the resolution for first and second reading of bylaw 44?
I do, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes that bylaw 44-2025 to appoint a temporary municipal law enforcement officer for the 2025 summer season is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? That is carried. The bylaw is on the floor for any questions or comments. There being none, Councillor Flagg, third and final reading, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Noyes, that bylaw 44-2025 is given third and final reading and be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Noyes, you have the resolution for first and second reading of the confirmatory bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Flagg. Excuse me. Bylaw number 45, 2025, to confirm the actions of council at its special council meeting held May 12, 2025 is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? That is carried. Councillor Christensen, third and final reading, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lewis that bylaw 45-2025 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. And that takes us to you, Councillor Dubanow.
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Flagg, that council adjourns at 6:17 p.m. to reconvene into council and committee meeting of May 12, 2025.
Those in favor? That is carried. So we're going to just take a very brief break so that Mr. Beauchamp can end this meeting and then go into the committee meeting. I'm going to call this council and committee meeting to order. We did the land acknowledgement earlier during the special council meeting, so we'll forego that at this point. Madam Clerk, the roll call.
All members are still present, Mayor Redekop.
Nobody's been lost. That's good. We're doing so good. We're 19 minutes in and we haven't lost anyone. There are no announcements for this council and committee meeting. There's no addendum. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? There being none, we've got some notices of upcoming public meetings. There's a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment for 3957 Rebstock Road. That will be held Monday, May the 26th, 2025 at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. And we also have an open house and a public meeting with respect to official plan review and new official plan. The open house is Monday, June the 2nd at 5 p.m. At the Leisureplex. And the public meeting is Monday, June the 9th here at Town Hall at 6 p.m. In the council chambers. That takes us to presentations and delegations. We have a presentation this evening from Gloria Damoff with respect to a land encroachment matter.
I prefer to sit if I could, if it's okay. Put the camera on. I'll put this down a little bit. I mean, we do have some photos here, but. Need that there.
Good evening, Ms. Damoff.
Hi, good evening.
Take your time and get yourself settled there.
Yeah, just turn around so I can sit in it. Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Okay, good. Okay. Good evening. I'm sorry I have to sit, but my name is Gloria Damoff. I'm the owner of property at 294 Prospect Point Road South in Ridgeway. And I'm here to discuss the bylaw that part of my garden is on town property, which I never understood until recently, receiving a letter from the town, as somebody had complained. Anyways, the garden was installed shortly after I moved there, and I've been in the house for 10 years, come August. I've kept the property, I believe, in good shape. I've been a good neighbor, and I would like to propose that I understand that part of the garden is town property. I've had for over years people coming by and commenting on how nice the property is, and that the fact that there's lots of bees and flowers and whatever. And I've welcomed them to come on the property and take a look if they want to look around. So my proposal to you is, if you won't take everything down, that the portion that is on town property, that it becomes public, because it is now, when it's town property, it's public property. So I'm more than willing, and have never stopped anybody from coming on my property. I just think because it's established garden, it really is nice. And the fact that I think we're trying to protect greenery and everything that we're going on, I think to take it out, to me, just doesn't make any sense. It was a great expense, but it wasn't the reason for an expense that I built it. It was to retire, and to have something nice to look at. So I'm willing to work with the town. I understand that, like I said, that I didn't know it was on town property, because when I bought the property, the existing, at the time, the owners already had a garden at the front in the same area that I planted, so I didn't know any different. So that's my discussion.
Anything further?
Sorry?
Do you have anything further that you wanted to
I
say?
really don't know what else to say. Like I said, I really feel that, oh, yes, I can say something else. When I moved there, there was a very bad issue with water coming down Prospect Point Road South. And I went to a few committee meetings, and the neighborhood, they were just so upset, because the original plans that the town had, and at a great expense, it was my understanding, was to remove trees on the other side of where my house is. They would have taken the trees all the way down and put the pipe to alleviate the excess water would go into Lake Erie that way. Now, I'm on Lake Erie too, but I'm on the other side. So nobody could come to anything that made any sense, so I made the suggestion. For some odd reason, the water would come down, and it would kind of like somehow just kind of go down between myself and the next door neighbor at 302. 302 wanted nothing to do with it. So I said to the town, you can put the pipe down my property, which they did, during the time of around COVID. So the town was there for, I don't know how many months, installed the big pipe all the way down, right, and empties out into the lake. And I think, like I said, I just wanted the situation alleviated, and I figured it's not hurting me if they put a pipe down there, but I think I did something to help the town, and I know that I saved the town a lot of money by coming the route down my house instead of going another, I don't know how many hundreds of feet to put pipe down to the other end. So I think that's all that I have to say.
Thank you. Do any members of Council, Councillor Christensen?
Ms. Damoff, with respect to, so just get some questions to clarify.
Sure.
So you are located on the east side of Prospect Point Road?
Yes.
Fronting on Thunder Bay?
Yes.
The lake?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So the pipe was intended to go down the west side of Prospect Point Road, so the other side of the road?
Yes.
From you, to the lake with a large number of trees being impacted.
Yes, and that's exactly what caused all the,
And those trees are still there.
yes, they are.
So when you spoke with the town and negotiated this, are you saying that the pipes went down to just where your property was?
Yes.
And then hung a left?
Exactly.
Looking south, hung a left?
Yep.
Going into the lake from your property?
Exactly, all the way down approximately. I'm guessing around, I think it's 275 to 300 feet from the road to the lake.
Were there significant numbers of town staff?
Oh, yes.
Engaged in this process?
Oh, yes, a lot. They ripped up the driveway, they gave me a new driveway, and they took the piping, like I said, the next door neighbor wanted nothing to do with it. I have signed documentation here with the town for some legal rights that I signed off on saying it was fine, and they put the pipe all the way down to exit into the lake there.
So am I correct in saying that therefore the town pipe went just south of your garden?
Yes,
Through your driveway?
Yes.
And that you signed agreements with the town?
Yep.
Which did not at that time identify any issues with encroachment?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Any other councillor? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation and the couple of calls we've had on the matter.
Okay.
Councillor Christensen asked kind of a question that I was going to ask as well in terms of when that work was being done. Did the town ever mention the gardens in front of the house?
Never.
The other question I had is, with the drain going through your property, does the town now have an easement through your property for that drain, or is it just solely a drain going through your property? Do you know?
What do you mean by an easement?
A legal agreement with the town? For
Yes,
that? Okay.
I believe so, because it was legal documentation that the town sent me that was signed off, and it's here. So if I was to sell the house, the new owner would have to know that this was done and that I signed off. Yeah.
Perfect. No, and I have no other questions, and thank you for your presentation
Oh,
tonight.
you're welcome, thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. Through you to Gloria. Gloria, does any part of your garden or anything that's associated with it cause any traffic problems, like sightline problems or anything else like that?
Never. Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Were the brick pillars, were they there when the pipe was being laid next to your home?
Yes.
Thank you.
Everything, nothing's changed. When the original garden was made, it stayed the same, nothing has been added. It just plants grew, but it was right from the beginning.
The photos that are shown here, do those show the cement pillars?
I want to be sure that we're talking about the same ones. Are you talking about these here?
Correct.
No, that's to show that was the previous owners that had that garden there. So you see where the fire hydrant is? If you're looking at the same, this is not my garden as it is now. This was theirs. To show you that it went out the same distance. So I basically planted in the same area that is shown in here. And that's why I included the photo, so you would see that it was already in existence when I bought the house.
Nothing further, thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, okay, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. One question I did have with respect to the fire hydrant. I can't remember if the pillars block the fire hydrant or not.
No, I think it was, there's a tree there, a little tree, and I said I would gladly have it moved. I guess it's grown, it's not big, but if it's in the way or whatever, I suggested if there's anything I need to move, plant-wise or tree-wise, I'd be more than happy to move it.
One last question in that regard. I know on some fire hydrants for visibility, they put like a reflective arm up so it's more visible. Would you have any objection to that at that location?
No.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So Ms. Damoff, the fire hydrant itself is in the middle of your garden behind two of the pillars and a little hedge, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So what will happen now, the report relative to this comes up later in the evening, and at that point, if councillors have further questions, they can ask staff of that and decide what
Okay.
they want to do. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that then takes us to the next item agenda, which is a public meeting regarding a zoning bylaw amendment for 99 Joseph Street. This is a public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act, and the format is council will hear from a member of staff with respect to the application, and we'll have an opportunity to ask any questions. We will then hear from the owner or the owner's agent, who can provide us with additional information if he or she wishes. We will then ask for anyone who wishes to speak in support of the application, anyone who wishes to speak in opposition or ask questions about the application. We'll then go to the communications manager to ask if there's anyone in the digital waiting room who wishes to address council. And then finally, I'll ask the clerk if she has received any additional comments from anyone before we finalize the meeting. So, Ms. Shugan, I presume you are here to speak on behalf of town staff with respect to the application?
Sorry, yes. Okay, good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, members of the public. My name is Robin Shugan. I am the Intermediate Development Planner with the Town of Fort Erie. The purpose of this presentation and public meeting is to provide information to Council for proposed zoning bylaw amendment application for the subject lands municipally known as 99 Joseph Street. The agent representing the applicant is Michael Sullivan of Land Pro Planning Solutions on behalf of the owner, Matthew Gertz. The subject lands are proposed to be rezoned from the residential 2 zone to a site-specific residential 3 zone to facilitate the creation of 1 new lot and 1 retained lot for the construction of a semi-detached dwelling. The site-specific regulation being requested is for the reduction of lot area for the retained lands, and the creation of the new lot will be subject to a future consent application through the Committee of Adjustment. Notice of today's public meeting was provided in accordance to the Planning Act by placing a sign on the subject lands and circulating a notice of public meeting to all residents within a 120-meter radius of the subject lands. Okay, here we have the timeline of the development application process. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment application is subject to a 90-day processing and review timeline that begins the day the application is deemed complete and will stop the day council makes the decision on the application. Right now we are at day 69 of the 90-day timeline. The subject property is located inside the urban boundary in the Lakeshore neighborhood on the west side of Joseph Street. The surrounding land uses to the north, south, east, and west are residential single detached dwellings. The site is a rectangular shaped parcel of land with an approximate lot area of 666 square meters with an approximate lot frontage of 19.8 meters. And this is a view looking south from the subject lands. This is north, east, and west looking onto the subject lands. Okay, the subject lands are designated, These subject lands are designated urban residential within the town's official plan. The urban residential designation supports a variety of housing forms, including the use of semi-detached dwellings. Therefore, no amendment to the official plan is required. The subject lands are currently zoned R2. The applicant seeks to rezone the subject lands to a new site-specific residential 3 zone to facilitate the construction of a semi-detached dwelling. Okay, this is an illustration of the conceptual site plan. The applicant is seeking relief from the required minimum lot area for the retained lands from 305 square meters to 302.8 square meters. The site design proposes 1 retained lot and 1 severed lot for the construction of a semi-detached dwelling. The proposed semi-detached dwelling will accommodate on-site parking for both units, and the proposed semi-detached dwelling will meet all other setback provisions of the R3 zone. Okay, as a part of the application submitted, 2 studies were required as part of the proposal, a planning justification report and an archaeological assessment stage 1 and 2. A public open house was held April 2nd, 2025. The notice of open house was sent to property owners within a 120-meter radius of the subject lands. Town planning staff, agent, and owner were in attendance. No members of the public attended the meeting, and no written comments have been received. And this concludes the public meeting presentation for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shugan. Do any members of council have any questions? If not, thank you very much, and we'll call upon the owner or the owner's agent who wishes to address us. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I've got my colleague Emily Vorder beside me. She's giving her some exposure to council.
Excellent.
We've read the staff report and have worked with Robin on this file and have no comments. Here for any questions if council has any.
Thank you very much. Do any members of council have any questions? Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just thank you for appearing today. Very simple question. Are you planning a one-story, two-story on the property? Have you made that decision yet?
The owner's actually here, Councillor.
Oh.
I haven't made that decision yet. I'm leaning towards two-story.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, it's an easy evening for you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, not much experience for your assistant.
I'm okay. I've been through enough bad ones, so thank you very much.
Fair enough. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak other than the owner in support of the application? Mr. Beauchamp, is there anyone in the digital waiting room that...
There is not, sir.
Is there anyone, period?
There is no one in the waiting
Okay.
room.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application or who has questions of council that they wish to ask? There being none, Madam Clerk, has anybody communicated with us with respect to this, other than what's in the report?
No further comments were received through the clerk's office.
And I'm going to declare this public meeting closed, and I think we should deal with the report right now, if you don't mind, Councillor Christensen.
No, Your Worship.
Okay, so why don't we put report PBBS 35/2025 relative to this matter on the floor. Councillor Dubanow has moved it. Sorry. Yep, well, that's the next public meeting. Okay. Duly noted, though. Any members of council have any questions or comments? If not, then I'm going to call the question on the recommendations to approve the applications. All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. So that's one less item that you have to deal with, Councillor Christensen. That takes us to the public meeting with respect to the zoning bylaw housekeeping amendment, and that's town initiated. And Mr. Vanderveen is, you say, joining us digitally? Oh, look him up.
Good evening, Mayor Redekop and council. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Good evening, Mr. Vanderveen.
Oh, good evening. I'm just going to share my screen and start my staff presentation. Kevin, are you able to pull up my presentation for me and just flip through the slides? Oh, I'm sorry. I see the option. I apologize. I haven't done this since the pandemic, so I'm a little rusty. There we are. Okay, so everybody can see the presentation?
Yes.
Great. All right, thank you, Mayor Redekop and members of council. This public meeting is for the town-initiated housekeeping amendment to the zoning bylaw. Today is the statutory public meeting. So just to go through the application timeline, notice of the public meeting was placed in the news on April 17th, 2025, in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. That notice contained notice of both the information open house, which occurred on May 1st, 2025, and the statutory public meeting that's occurring this evening in council chambers. So the next steps in the process, following the public meeting tonight and any comments or feedback we receive from public and council, staff will take that back and prepare a recommendation report with the aim of bringing that back in June of 2025. The amending bylaw will be brought forward to council, assuming it all gets approved, on July 2025. Notice of decision will follow in August 2025. And the appeal period is expected to expire in August of 2025. So the main objectives of this housekeeping amendment is to align the town zoning bylaw with a recent change to the provincial planning statement, which is a provincial policy document. That was modified to permit additional residential dwelling units in agricultural areas. So far, planning staff are proposing to structure the additional residential units similar to the additional residential units that are already permitted in the town zoning bylaw in all urban residential zones. And by that, I mean the proposal is to permit 2 accessory dwelling units. Those would be attached to the main dwelling, or 1 accessory dwelling unit, attached to the main dwelling, and 1 detached accessory dwelling unit in a detached accessory building on the same lot. So you could either have 2 attached to the main unit, or 1 attached to the main and 1 in a detached structure, to a maximum of 3 dwelling units. Currently, planning staff are proposing to permit these additional residential units in the rural zone, the rural residential zone, and the waterfront rural residential zone, in addition to the agricultural zone. Just to cover off some other more miscellaneous components of the town-initiated housekeeping amendment, we're exploring refining some dwelling unit definitions in the zoning bylaw to help differentiate them from the accessory dwelling units. We're looking to permit development on existing lots of record, provided the lot has a minimum lot frontage of 10 meters. We're looking to clarify that parking exemptions in downtown zones do not apply to short-term rentals. We're looking to add some regulations into the zoning bylaw for legal non-conforming short-term rentals that are impacted by hazard areas. So that would be floodplain. We're looking to update the parking regulations for accessible parking spots to current standards, and also looking to revise regulations related to rebuilding non-conforming uses. Further, we're proposing to remove the dimensions and the definition of a garage in the zoning bylaw. The dimensions for parking spaces are regulated in a separate section, section 42 namely, so that is redundant in the definition. We're considering differentiating between at-grade patios and walkways to assist in building permit review. We're looking to revise and simplify some of the definitions for recreational vehicles and trailers in the zoning bylaw. We're proposing to revise this, a section of general provisions to permit model homes to front onto roads that are not yet assumed by the municipality. We're proposing to add an illustration to general provision showing how lot frontage is interpreted on a corner lot with a daylighting triangle for clarity purposes, and other miscellaneous small revisions and corrections. So just to go through this in a little bit more detail, I have a couple series of charts here that sort of summarize everything. So the first proposal is to modify the definition of a duplex and triplex. Again, this is an attempt to try and differentiate them from dwellings with accessory dwelling units. Right now, the proposal is essentially to allow all dwellings in a duplex and a triplex to have equal floor area, whereas accessory dwelling units typically are smaller than the main dwelling unit. We're proposing to modify the definition of floor area to exclude the thickness of all exterior walls from floor area. This would make it consistent with the other definition for floor area, net. Again, for the definition of garage, we're looking to remove the dimensions that are actually contained right in the definition of 6 meters by 3 meters and a height of 2.4 meters. These are already specified in section 42 of the zoning bylaw. For the definition of lot coverage, we're considering revising the definition to clarify when at-grade patios are considered towards lot coverage. We're proposing a new definition in the zoning bylaw for a patio, and the idea of this, revise the definition of patio and add a new definition for walkway. This is intended to try and resolve some issues we've been having with building permit review, in particular interior side yards where it's a little bit tricky. What's a patio versus what's a walkway? So we'll be working with building division staff to try to refine that and find a solution that makes building permit review a little bit easier in that regard. For the definitions of trailer, that would be recreational vehicles and vehicle recreational. We're looking to revise these definitions to make them consistent with each other, or perhaps merge them in a single definition for clarity purposes. Next, there's general provisions, regulations for accessory uses. We're proposing a small change. Basically, it would be permitting an increased projection of eaves and gutters into required yards from 0.5 meters to 0.5 meters. Under 613 of section 6 general provisions, we're just looking to clarify that unless otherwise permitted, one main dwelling shall be permitted on one lot. For section 618, again, we're looking to propose to permit development on existing lots of record with a minimum lot frontage of 10 meters. Right now, the minimum in the bylaw is 12 meters, but this conflicts with our R2B zone, which does permit lot frontages of 10 meters. Under 620, the parking area regulations in section 6 general provisions, we're proposing to change the wording of the regulation from should to shall for the provision requiring setbacks from lot lines for gates and barriers on regional and provincial roads. We're looking to clarify that electric vehicle or EV parking spaces count towards required parking. We're looking to clarify that parking requirements for short-term rentals are in effect in several core mixed-use zones, and to update the accessible parking ratios to current standards. We are also proposing in 6.21 landscaping and planting strips to remove Part C, which appears to be a redundant provision. We're not quite sure what that provision is intended to regulate, so we're planning to remove it from the zoning bylaw. Under 628, 629, and 630 of general provisions, those are all sections that speak to the replacement of buildings. We're looking to update these sections to make them compliant with the Planning Act and case law. Essentially, case law has established that legal non-conforming buildings and structures may be replaced or reconstructed as of right on the same building footprint. Currently, our provisions require them to be destroyed by a fire or a disaster of some nature, whereas case law has established that they can be reconstructed as of right, provided they're on the same footprint and they're not enlarged. Under 6.35 swimming pools, we're looking to revise the regulations for where swimming pools can be located on irregular corner or through lots. Right now, the provisions are rather inflexible, which is resulting in the need for a lot of minor variance applications. So we're just looking to build in some flexibility to hopefully reduce the amount of minor variances that are required for people looking to put pools on their property. Under 6.38, travel trailers, pickup campers, tent trailers, etc., we're just looking to revise the wording of that section slightly to make it clear that the use of any motor vehicles for living, sleeping, or eating accommodation is prohibited. Under 643 accessory dwelling units, that's where we're going to add the majority of the regulations for the additional dwelling units on agricultural, rural residential, and waterfront rural residential zones. Under 645, lots comprised of 2 or more lots, we're looking to modify the text slightly to remove the mandatory requirement for parcels comprised of 2 or more contiguous lots to be subject to site plan control. That's to reflect the recent change to provincial policy that prevents us from implementing site plan control on any residential development that has less than 10 units. Under 651, model homes and draft approved plans of subdivision, we're proposing to revise the section to permit model homes to front on roads that are not yet assumed by the municipality. That's just to solve some conflicts in the zoning provisions and general provisions and model homes that exist currently. Under 658 short-term rentals, we're considering adding provisions to address short-term rentals that are impacted by hazard areas. So again, these would be short-term rentals in legal non-conforming structures that currently are not permitted as they are located in a hazard area. Further, in Section 6 general provisions, we're proposing to add a new illustration just to show how lot frontage is interpreted on a corner lot that's impacted by a daylighting triangle. Under Section 7, agricultural zone, 8 rural zone, 9 rural residential zone, and 16A waterfront rural residential zones, we're just looking to add the additional residential units as permitted uses. So again, this would be two dwelling units attached to the main, or one attached to the main and one in a detached accessory building. Under Section 17 of the neighborhood development zone, we're just looking to add a small clarification provision in there that clarifies the intended use and purpose of the zone in accordance with the town's official plan. Under Section 18 of general provisions for commercial zones, we're proposing to revise the text to more clearly state where dwelling units are permitted. In various commercial zones throughout the zoning bylaw, we're going to be revising the parking exemption regulation to clarify that it is not applicable to short-term rentals. Short-term rentals have their own parking requirements. And to conclude, we will be conducting various updates to section numbering, correcting incorrect cross-references, typos, and grammatical errors as required. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you. And I'm happy to take any questions council may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van der Veen. Do any members of council have any questions? You know, Justice Ramsey once said to me, "Don't be saucy." Councillor Lewis.
Let the record show that wasn't directed at me. I do have a question, Mr. Van der Veen, on 6.58, which I believe was page 10 of your slides. It speaks to the short-term rental hazard areas. And I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. We have some short-term rentals in hazard areas where the properties are currently occupied, and the property can be rented for 30 days or more without a short-term rental license. How does this change to the STRs in a hazard area impact the property? If you can just maybe give a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, if I'm understanding, well, the intent of it is in many instances, particularly along the waterfront and along certain like riverine areas, we have single detached dwellings, for example, that are permitted to operate short-term rentals under the zoning bylaw if they weren't located within the hazard zone. The issue is they are located within the hazard zone. So currently, if you reference the hazard zone provisions, they don't permit short-term rentals like a residential zone normally would. So we're looking to add a general provision under Section 6 saying if you're a legal non-conforming dwelling or other building that essentially if the hazard zone wasn't there, you would be permitted to operate a short-term rental, then this new provision would allow you to operate a short-term rental operation based on the zone category that would be there if the hazard zone wasn't in place.
And if I may continue, Your Worship, thank you. That clarifies, because I was trying to figure out if the issue is a hazard zone with a house, but it still has occupancy, whether it's short-term rental, long-term rental, or full-time occupancy. To me, there really isn't much difference, but you provided clarity, and thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Van der Veen, when you talk about the landscaping and planting strips being deleted because they seem to be redundant, What does that mean? Why have they been in there, and why do we require these planting strips? And if these are deleted, does that eliminate planting strips or landscaping strips?
To Mayor Redekop, yeah, so the majority of the landscaping regulations are remaining unchanged. This is in relation to 621C. It requires like a 0.9 meter strip between basically a parking space and a property line. To my knowledge, it's never been implemented in a lot of our review because it's not quite clear what that's intended to pertain to. That's the provision we're looking to remove. The remainder of the landscaping and planting strip regulations will all remain inside the zoning bylaw.
And that will all be subject to site plan control.
Yes.
And the EV parking spaces, so are individuals who don't have an electric vehicle able to park in those? Or are they reserved as accessibility parking spaces for a specific purpose?
That's a great question, and I think we're going to have to look into that a little bit more. I did do some research. There was plans to mandate a certain amount of EV parking and development going forward. However, the province, based on what I was able to locate, they didn't implement that change. So that's something I think we need to think about.
Well, I agree, and I've
it's
been
a very
thinking
good
about
question.
Because if you can't park there, that in essence restricts at least some of the parking by whatever number of EV spaces you would have. And if you have accessible parking units as well, you could be taking several parking spaces away from the requirement. In any event, you're going to be giving some more consideration to that, I presume, by what you've just said?
Yes, we will look into that and speak to that in the recommendation report.
And then finally, with respect to the additional dwelling units in townhomes, there's a parking requirement for each additional dwelling unit, isn't there?
Yes.
And so you can't get a permit for an additional dwelling unit unless you can meet certain requirements, including parking?
That is correct. So similar to the ones inside the urban boundary, any additional residential unit, if they are carried through in the zones outside the urban boundary, each dwelling unit would be required to have one parking space.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vanderveen. If there are no other questions, then I'm going to ask if there's anyone in the public that wishes to address council with respect to the proposed changes to our zoning bylaw. If not, Mr. Beauchamp, is there anyone other than Mr. Vanderveen in the digital waiting room? Okay. Madam Clerk, have we received any comments in writing with respect to this?
No, Mayor Redekop.
Okay, then I'm going to declare this public meeting closed. There is no consent agenda this evening, and so that takes us to Planning, Building, and Bylaw Services. Councillor Christensen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Planning, Building, and Bylaw Services Subcommittee meeting is now in session. We have no presentations and delegations this evening. The first report on the schedule has already been dealt with. The second report is item 10.2.2 PBBS 36-2025, amendments to the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 129-90, information report for housekeeping alternatives. Moved by Councillor Lewis. The report is on the floor for comments and questions. Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just, I want to extend my appreciation to town staff. There were a number of items that had been raised by local residents, specifically swimming pool locations, also some concern about recreational vehicles being used for habitation and a few other things. And I just want to extend my appreciation to staff because they've done a good job of addressing those concerns. Kind of what we act as the intermediary here on council to kind of speak staff, if you will. So when they raise those issues, it's always good to be able to bring them forward to staff, get them rectified, and hopefully now those concerns have been alleviated. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
There being no further comments or questions, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We then move on to report 10.2.3 PBBS 37-2025 Animal Care and Control Services Award of Contract. This is a recommendation report. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Lewis. The report is now on the floor for questions and comments. Your Worship.
Thank you very much. I'll start on this, and I want to start by saying that this has been a long odyssey. We're here today because of things that started probably 4 years ago, and this contract animal control had been under the auspices of the Fort Erie SPCA for many, many years. There were some issues that arose that were brought to Council's attention about 4 years ago, led us to decide to put the contract out for proposals. And as a result of that, the current provider, Lincoln County Humane Society, now the Humane Society of Greater Niagara, was given the contract. At the time, the recommendation, I believe, was that it'd be a 5-year contract. Council at the time decided to make it a 3-year contract. And one of the comments that I made at the time was that the issues that have been brought forward really made it almost necessary for Council to review the animal control services and provide the contract to the party that had presented the best proposal. But the issues that bedeviled the Fort Erie SPCA at the time, and they included things like policies not being adequately in place. There were some issues about some of the care of the animals that may or may not have been true. There was some issues about the board, and so my comment was that I hope that they would get their house in order, because I hope that at some point in the future we would be able to consider providing them with the contract for animal services. And they have a lot of support in this community, and I know that because they generate a fair bit of money through donations, which is always an indication that an organization is meeting the needs of the people that it's serving. Now, they still maintained the humane aspect of their work, despite the fact that they weren't doing the animal control contract. And so this year, rather than extend the contract to the current provider, Council asked staff to go out for another round of proposals, and that's what they've done. And staff, from my perspective, has done their job. They put together the RFP, they put it out, they received the proposals, they've evaluated the proposals, they provided us with their best advice with respect to this. The factors that they take into consideration in making their recommendations are different than the factors that we would as a council normally take into account. But most of the time we're aligned with recommendations from staff. I'm not aligned with the recommendation from staff this evening because the factors that I'm taking into account are somewhat different. There were some, and I know that staff may not know because I don't know that any of them were here when this contract was granted. But one of the things that the current provider had indicated 3 years ago was that they would have a presence in Fort Erie. I know that they made efforts in that regard, but the reality is they don't have a continuing presence here, unlike the Fort Erie SPCA, which is here, has a building and has done a number of upgrades on that building over the years. And we've been invited to some of the programs that they've instituted, all of which serve and benefit the community. So I will not be supporting the recommendation that this contract be granted to the Greater Niagara Humane Society. And if this is defeated, I will definitely support a recommendation that we grant the contract to the Fort Erie SPCA, which does come in at a lower price and lower increases over the 2 and 3 year term of the contract. And I think that they can provide the service that this community requires. The only concern that I have is I don't know whether they would be able to digitally renew licenses, which is something that the Greater Niagara Humane Society has done. And I would think that we should require that to be part of what they do if we get that far, simply because it's easier for many people. I know there's some people that still like to do it cash or whatever, but a lot of people like the digital renewal. So that's my short take on life right now.
Are there any other, Councillor Noyes?
Thank you, Councillor Christensen. As you all know, I'm the council rep for the Humane Society of Greater Niagara, and I do want to give kudos to them. I see that all the board members are very dedicated board members. They have a dedicated staff, and I don't question that at all. And they really have the animal care as their priority. But having said that, because I don't want any, I've heard nothing negative about them, but at the same point, I agree with the mayor in that it's time to bring it home, and that there is, you can see from the bequests that you see in the donations, that this is what the town wants, this is what the taxpayers here want, and I do see that they've increased the services that are offered, particularly veterinarian services and things like that, and their costs are very reasonable, and that's very helpful to someone who has, a pet that's a member of their family that requires an operation to be local and things like that. So I did have a chance to visit the SPCA in the last several weeks, and again, I was impressed. I think they have taken steps, absolutely move forward in the right direction. And so I would support the mayor's. I'm on the same page as the mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to preface this by saying that this isn't an SPCA issue. This is a general concern that if we are going to utilize hometown advantage on everything that we do, that we are opening up Pandora's box, and I'm very cautious about that. We asked staff to come back with a recommendation for individuals who I respect a great deal, did that. They put an awful lot of work and effort into receiving bids. We have an overwhelming majority, 4 to nothing, that has indicated a preference for one of those bidders. I'm comfortable with that decision, and I think that again, if we are going to start directing how staff run, I think we're walking a very dangerous slope. So I'll support the recommendation this evening. Thanks.
Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I just want to touch on what Councillor Flagg raised, and I understand his concern, and I completely understand the concern about, fair bidding process and everything else. But I mean, to be fair here, if we're talking about value for taxpayers, the Fort Erie SPCA bid is less money, and it's a lower increase. And, when you combine the value provided to us with their submission and all the other concerns that the mayor raised and Councillor Noyes raised, I mean, for me, it's an easy decision. It's, less of an impact on our levy. And we've had services offered by them for many, many years. We did have, for better or worse, an issue was raised. I know that they've gone out of their way to address many of those concerns, and I'm comfortable. I don't do this very often. I have a great deal of respect for the work our staff do, and I mentioned that earlier. I gave my appreciation to staff, because residents raise concerns, I bring it to staff and they address them. But on this here, staff did a good job. They put together a good report. They ran a fair tender process, but the mayor said it best. You know, when it comes down to it, we have to do what we do here at council, and we make a decision that we feel is best for the residents who put us in this place and trust our judgment. And for that reason, I will, I'm going to follow along with where the mayor and Councillor Noyes, and I'm sure other members of council are going. I will be supporting that we move forward with giving this to the Lincoln County Humane Society if council decides to defeat this. Thank you.
Councillor Lewis?
Yeah, just a couple of comments, Madam Chair, and I certainly appreciate the work that staff put into the report. I was not part of the previous council that made the decision for what I believe to be the right reason at the right time to do the right thing. I think from my understanding, the Fort Erie SPCA has made incredible strides with their governance changes and updating policies, their local presence, which they've always had in the community, even without the contract with the town of Fort Erie. And I know they run a number of great programs, including the spay and neuter clinic out of the Fort Erie location. But the mayor and I were speaking earlier, and one of the things that came up was the issue with picking up an animal. And currently, I believe if it's your first time picking up the naughty animal that ran away, it's not too far to get them. But if it's the second time around, you're making a trip out of the municipality. And I do think the local presence is a factor that we on council maybe need to weigh a little bit more than that at the staff level, because that's why we're here. But I will be voting against the recommendation for the Lincoln Humane Society and hope that we move in the direction of the Fort Erie SPCA tonight for the award of the contract.
Councillor McDermott?
Thank you. I tend to agree with the mayor. He's pretty much covered it all. Since the SPCA is in my ward, I try to be as supportive as I can. And I think that they know that I was one of those responsible for not seeing that contract go through because of some of the shortcomings that they had at the time. So, you know, forgiveness and fixing the problem ends up in redemption somewhere down the line, and I think that's probably the way I feel today. And as much as I agree with Councillor Flagg's take on this, I think people in this community are fed up with every time we do a little bit of regionalization, whether that be with animal welfare or new bus lines or regional hospitals. I think the community goes a little antsy on that because they know that they have a place here and they can't understand why we don't see it. We do see it all the time, but this time around I think I've had a hankering for people in my ward that feel that we should probably defeat this motion tonight and offer the job to the SPCA here. It's not parochialism at all. It's just based on the fact that 174 pages against 75 pages doesn't really mean much if the quality of the pages aren't all the same. So I kind of think I'm going to go along with the mayor and defeat this, and it's really not based on being anti-humane society because, you know, they did a good job during the period of time that they've been here, and I just feel that we have to do this on behalf of the people of our community. Thank you.
Councillor Flagg?
Thank you, Game Chair. And to be clear, if this was a financial concern, this council could have approved the 2% increase for the last 2 years of the contract from the Humane Society. So I don't think that it's fair that the council looks at this as voting on something as less expensive than the other. If this was truly a financial decision, that decision would have been made 2 meetings ago, and we would have a full-time contract. Again, this is not an SPCA versus Humane Society issue with me. It's it's what's right and to be able to continue and to keep a balance that we're able to maintain going forward. Thank you.
Redekop?
Thank you. So, what's right, I guess, is in the eye of the beholder. And so I happen to think that my view on this is right. I have a great deal of respect for my colleague to the right. But, looking at this, the reality is that the contract was changed once by us increasing the fees for licensing. That was something that wasn't discussed at the time the contract was granted, and was brought up by Lincoln County a couple of years ago. The reality is that Fort Erie SPCA will provide the service at a lesser cost, and the increases over the next 2 years would be at a lesser amount. So there is a financial implication to this. And, I understand staff's perspective that there were lots of bells and whistles to the presentation made by Greater Niagara, Humane Society of Greater Niagara. Some of the bells and whistles maybe we need, some of them we don't need, but I happen to think that if we look at the policies affecting the proposal, we look at the several reasons why staff suggested that the contract should go to the Humane Society of Greater Niagara because it scored higher. Well, the Fort Erie SPCA is in a good position to provide animal control services, and it's financially sound. It owns its own buildings, equipment, and vehicles. It has done upgrades to its building and will continue to do so, and we know that it's financially sound because it's got monies in reserve. At least in the town of Fort Erie, it's a well-respected, long-standing organization, with the exception of that blip that occurred a few years ago. They have access to professional services as well, and they will provide those to people that need them. They have been responsive to calls that have come into them on the humane side, and when they had the contract, they were very responsive to the calls from residents. So I don't have a problem with respect to this. I wouldn't call it the hometown advantage. I know it looks very much like that, but from my perspective, I'm looking at who can provide the service at the best price and at the greatest convenience to the residents of Fort Erie. And in my view, that would be the Fort Erie SPCA. So as I said, I won't support the recommendation in the report. Madam Chair, when we deal with this, can we deal with recommendations 1 and 2 separately so that if recommendation 1 is defeated, there will be an opportunity for another recommendation to be put forward by a member of council?
Yes, I can figure that one out, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Noyes has another.
I just wanted to comment again on the scoring. Again, I did not see, none of us did see the technical score. We saw the end result. We don't know what the questions were. We don't know how it was rated. We don't know what came into effect one way or the other. When I'm reading the advantages of the Humane Society of Greater Niagara, it talks about that they follow the legislative requirements, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think it's meaning that we don't, that the Fort Erie doesn't. So I'm not quite sure. I would have liked to have seen more about, where they gained points and where they lost points and how the points were weighted. But I guess we don't get to see that. But I think in the past we have for certain contracts from a long time ago, and it was helpful to see. And if I can recall, when I did see some of these, I'm not talking about the Humane Society, I was just talking about a general RFP. When it was familiarity with the area, they did get higher points. And when they were familiar with the engineering, let's say, if they had performed work before in the past, that was considered a plus. So I'm just saying it's hard to look at the technical score and not understand how one scored higher than the other. Thank you.
Are there any other? No. There being no other comments, I will call the question in 2 parts. All those in favor of recommendation number 1? All those opposed to recommendation number 1? That recommendation fails. All those in favor of recommendation 2?
Can't go to 2 without a
sorry.
1.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, see. All right. So, is there an amendment, a replacement for recommendation 1?
Yes, that council accept and approves the proposal by the Fort Erie SPCA for animal care and control services for the town of Fort Erie for a period of 3 years, which is an increase of 2.00 for the first year, 2.00 per year therefore after, with an option to extend for an additional 2-year periods.
Seconded by Councillor Lewis.
Don't need a seconder in committee.
Okay. So I will call the question. No,
Questions.
comments and questions. Okay, sorry. Councillor Noyes.
Again, not seeing the whole proposal from the Fort Erie SPCA, and knowing how Councillor Don Lupert was very active and a very strong representative of the town council, I'm hoping that as we move forward, there will be council representation on the board, on the SPCA board. I don't know if that's built in. I know it was built in for the linking for the humane. I'll volunteer. I have no problem volunteering for it. But it's a question of whether they want a council member on. I don't know what it says in their contract. I know that was one of the stipulations we told the Humane Society of Greater Niagara that was a requirement, and I would want to make sure that is a requirement, if council agrees, for this also.
Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The motion that was made by Councillor McDermott has no amount. We don't have an initial amount for this. It did in the report. The report had an amount of $154,187.28 for the first year in annual increases. How are we going to vote on something? We have no idea how much money this is going to cost. I don't think that's a motion that's in order.
Your worship.
So we know that they scored higher, so that means that it would be less than what was proposed, but I agree with Councillor Flagg. There should be a specific number. There wasn't a specific number in the actual recommendation, although there was something in the report as to what the Humane Society of Greater Niagara had proposed. So I presume that somebody on the committee, perhaps the CAO, would know what the...
I was going to suggest perhaps we
Yes,
ask the CAO.
and then can I have the floor back once we've done that? Because I wanted to make an amendment to this.
Okay. CAO, do you have an amount that was in the proposal provided by the Fort Erie SPCA?
So unfortunately, I don't have the specific amount for the first year, but I do have a sum total for the 3 years of that in a summary document. The amount for the 3-year contract all in is $429,986.
So I would suggest that that be put in the recommendation, at least as the total amount. We can figure out backwards how much the first year is. So I would suggest that that be put in prior to, when it says for a 3-year period, in the total amount of X number of dollars.
That's fine.
Including increases of 2%. Second and third years.
Do you want to make that amendment to it? Or?
I'm suggesting that we amend that.
Yes. Okay, is everyone,
Is that a friendly amendment?
yeah, that's a friendly
Yes.
amendment, so.
Okay.
1 second, I got to get
Okay.
it.
But then I also had an
Another
amendment.
amendment.
Yes.
Okay.
Whenever we're ready. Does the clerk have?
You have that?
Okay.
Okay.
So I did mention that I thought that for the convenience of the residents, there should be an opportunity for digital renewal of licenses. And so I believe that we should specify that in this recommendation. And that means, I guess near the end, we would put in that the service includes a digital license renewal.
Yes. The last part of that. Does anyone need a rereading of that amendment, or?
Well, Councillor Lubert's always insisted that we read through a resolution if it was amended, and I think we should do that.
Yes, could you please then read that amendment, Madam Clerk?
With the two friendly amendments made by Mayor Redekop, the current motion is that council accepts and approves the proposal by the Fort Erie SPCA for animal care and control services for the town of Fort Erie for a period of 3 years for a total amount of $429,986, with an increase of 2% for the first year and 2% per year thereafter, with an option to extend for an additional 2 two-year periods, and that the service include a digital license renewal.
All right. So the 400, if I may, the $429,986 the CAO said was a cumulative total over 3 years. So the 2% increase would only take effect in year 4 and year 5, should there be an increase. And that would be upon the yearly amount, not upon the 429.
I think I should just say that that includes. So
That includes, yeah.
2% for the first 2 years. So included. Yes. Yeah.
I can reread.
Yes, could you please reread? Thank you.
Council accepts and approves the proposal by the Fort Erie SPCA for animal care and control services for the town of Fort Erie for a period of 3 years for an annual amount of the initial year of $140,500, with an increase of 2% for the first year and 2% per year thereafter, with an option to extend for an additional 2 two-year periods, and that the service include a digital license renewal.
Are there any further comments? Councillor Noyes?
Do we need to add council representation?
Well, while we're here, yes. And further that council representative be appointed to the board of the Fort Erie SPCA. Okay.
Can I suggest that we deal with this resolution?
Okay.
We then deal with the second recommendation, and then we do a third resolution to add that there be a council representative appointed to the board.
All right then, so calling, no further comments or questions, calling the proposed amendment number 1. All those in favor? All those opposed? That is carried. Calling recommendation number 2, which provides details with respect to the fees. All those, is there any comment or question with respect to recommendation 2? Roll call. Councillor Flagg?
Yeah, I'm sorry to keep dragging this out a little bit, but this is effective, this contract will be effective later this year, correct?
Right.
So how does the 2025 fees that have already been paid out to the current contractor, how will those be rectified for the 6-month period that there will be an overlap here?
Councillor Noyes?
It may help, and I don't know if it will, that the way the licensing fees are given is basically every year it's renewal for each individual animal, where before, I think, it was you had to renew in, I think, January and February. By March, you had to have all the licensing for the year done. It's not done that way anymore. So if you register your dog first in September, it comes due in September. If you register your dog or you get the license in June, it's in June. So it's no longer restricted to relicensing within a period of time, which would have passed because it would have been in March. I think you had to have your dogs licensed.
So can we just get the Director of Corporate Services to
Yes.
comment?
Mr. Jansen?
Can you please repeat that?
The question was whether that we are now 6 months into the year, that what is the impact on the contract with respect to fees that have been collected since January?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, we would want to bring that back and get some assurances and clarity on what that transition and cutoff would be. So we would have time as well before the bylaw would come back where we can look to some of these things. I do understand as well, just looking at what was defeated, Appendix 1 did have a set of fees that I understand based on the alternate submission that it does not need to be approved. But those are some of the things we'd want to confirm as well.
Can we approve subject to staff review for implementation? Okay, so all those in favor? Opposed? Recommendation 2 is carried. There's been discussion of the appointment of a councillor, requiring that a council member be appointed to the Fort Erie SPCA board. Can I get?
I'll move that.
So moved by Mayor Redekop. Does that need to be? Okay. No. So all those in favor of that motion, that is all opposed? Any opposed? Okay, that too is carried. So thank you. I think that deals with that report. Moving on to new business inquiries. Are there, Councillor Noyes?
Yes, late in the day when I got it, and I only had a brief opportunity of touching base with Mr. Terry, that I had some residents on Coral Avenue. About a year ago that we had their tornado that came through, and Coral Avenue saw a number of trees. I think there's 7 town trees on Coral Avenue that was destroyed, and I think our arborist has already looked at them, way back then, and there were promises made at that point that the town would replace these trees. So I'm hoping that is a priority for this year, that the trees do get replaced on Coral Avenue. They are town trees, and we did kind of make a promise. And we do have this tree bank, so let's make sure these trees get replaced this year.
Barry?
We can take a look into that and try and include it in our tree planting plan for the year.
Thank you. Are there any other new business inquiries? No? All right. Then the next item is the business status report. Are there any questions or comments with respect to the business status report? There being none, I declare the PBBS subcommittee meeting closed and return the chair to your worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Christensen. Job well done. That takes us to infrastructure services, and that is Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Your Worship. Infrastructure Services is now in session. We have no presentations or delegations tonight. We'll move on to reports. We have one report before us, 11.2.1, IS 11-2025, short-term rentals parking in Crystal Beach pilot project. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Your Worship. Any questions or comments to the report? I'll go with Councillor Noyes first.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. I guess, and I'm for it, I think this is a good idea, and I know it's 3 months here and 3 months there, but just in question of, like, I'm looking at, maybe I'm reading it wrong, page 2 of 4, where it talks about a fee of $1,437, approval by the Committee of Adjustment, that it's going to take 45 days for the committee decision, and public notice has to be given. Are we talking about that for this year? Because if we are, then how is this going to become a pilot? Like, I mean, we're into May. 45 days brings us into a long time from now, 2 months. So I'm just wondering, like, so how can we do a pilot program that starts in, is it March to whatever the dates are? Okay, I'm trying to find where the dates are. I know there's 2 dates.
While you look for that, Councillor Noyes, I'm going to move on with trying to get an answer to your question, and it is a Crystal Beach pilot project, so that might be why it's a little bit more unique than what we're used to, but Acting Director Frost, maybe you have some comments.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Through you, Chair, to Councillor Noyes. The short-term rentals do operate 12 months a year, per my understanding, and the intent here is to go through the Committee of Adjustment to get the variance for off-site parking. We have put this in place so that the time of year when you're parking at quote-unquote the Grove parking lot during the spring, summer, and fall months when there is no snow is available, and then in the winter when we have an unmaintained lot there, we would switch the parking over to the municipal lot further down Erie Road. So it is a 12-month short-term rental process.
Councillor Noyes?
I fully understand that. Again, it's talking about a pilot program for 2025. It's supposed to start April 1st. We're now into May 12th. I think it's the 12th today. And there's 45 days minimum before any of this gets, and this is after it goes through this, and this. So how is this going to be a pilot program for 2025 when we're basically going to be more than halfway through the year before anybody can access these parking spots? And is there another way to make it happen this year, I guess is my question.
Thank you, Councillor Noyes. Acting Director Frost or any of the other staff that wrote the report, I don't know if you have any other comments.
Through you, Chair. While it does say 45 days, just to go through the planning application and consent application, I would say, regardless where they would want to do a short-term rental, if they have to go through a process to get a variance, it's going to be the 45 days anywhere throughout town. I think that this is still able to be a pilot project because we will still get a portion of the summer where we see the tourism in Crystal Beach, and how does the short-term rental parking in the 2 parking lots operate with that, as well as we will still see the quote-unquote off-peak, off-tourist times of year and how that program operates then. So we can still gain some strong insights as to how the program is going to work for 2025. It may not be a quote-unquote one-year pilot project, but there's still a lot we can learn this year by doing so.
Anything further?
And I can appreciate it because I am for it, and I understand that, you know, time goes on and there's requirements for under the building code, et cetera, for zoning changes and things. And I guess there's no other way to do this, but from what I'm understanding, so it won't be till July that, if everything goes smoothly, that this is going to be implemented. So I guess we're going to have to live with it.
Yeah, I just wanted some clarification. So there will be 10 spaces in these lots during the periods of time designated during the course of the year. And we did have one of the hotel owners in Crystal Beach ask about renting some parking spaces to facilitate his business. Is that something that's still a possibility?
Thank you for the question, Acting Director Frost.
Through you, Chair. We did bring a report recently talking about the ability to purchase overnight parking passes, which is still an opportunity for local business owners. This whole report, specifically with the short-term rentals, they are required to have parking spaces by the Planning and Zoning Act and bylaws, respectively. So this is a way to help promote that short-term rental unit, whereas the other business owners, like the hotels, for example, can make use of the overnight passes, and it's not a requirement of Planning Act and designations to run their business.
Thank you.
Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, Chair. Will these have signage, and will they be assigned to a specific address?
Acting Director Frost.
Through you, Chair. The idea would be that the short-term rental owner themselves would be given a parking pass that you hang in the mirror. It would be up to that person to distribute the parking passes to their guests and recover the parking pass itself. There will be signs physically posted saying these are short-term rental spots designated for pass holders only, so that we do retain that capacity for the STRs. But without that pass in your vehicle, it gives us that mechanism to understand you don't belong here, and then bylaw can go out and enforce as required.
Councillor Flagg.
That's an answer. Thank you.
Any other questions from members of council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed, if any? The motion carries. And that moves us on to new business and inquiries. Any new business or inquiries from members of council? Your worship.
Just had an inquiry with respect to the cleanup. We had quite a number of groups and individuals who were out cleaning up the town around Earth Day and even into May. And I noticed that town staff were out as well and participated and helped clean up in municipal parks and along the roadsides. I'm just wondering whether the region has a similar type program, because I've now gone by a cushion on Gilmore Road that's been there for about the last 4 weeks. I did raise the issue with the region's CAO. I haven't heard back, nor has the cushion been changed. So I'm wondering whether the CAO has any insights into this at all, and if not, whether he might be able to follow up and find out if the region has a program where they do some roadside pickup.
Mr. McQueen, any comments to the inquiry?
Through you to the mayor's question, I will follow up with the region to see what kind of follow-up they may have on that specific issue. I know they have a hotline to call for illegal dumping and other such things, but I'm not aware of any programs where they're specifically targeting roadside cleanup or community cleanup similar to what we've done here in the town. So I will follow up and get back to council on that.
Thank you. And if municipal staff sees or is notified of garbage or litter on the side of the road, can we contact somebody at town staff about picking up like cushions and that type of thing?
Mr. McQueen?
Yes, I would encourage you or residents to call into 905-871-1600, just to log any concerns about that, and we'll manage it from there. And just to assure council, in cases where our town staff are out, we are encouraging them, whether it's a MTO jurisdiction or a regional road or a town road, if they're able to safely make an attempt to pick up garbage that's safe to clear from the roadside.
Thank you for the clarity. Any further questions, Your Worship?
No, thank you.
Any other questions from members of council? Seeing none, that brings us over to the business status report. Any questions on the business status report? There was one, too, this time. Seeing none, I will turn the chair back over to you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lewis. That then takes us to Corporate and Community Services. Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, Worship. Corporate and Community Services in session. No presentation and delegations tonight. We have a report on the agenda, CAO 05-2025. On the floor for a second. Thank you, Councillor Dubanow. Questions, comments? Councillor Dubanow, go.
I'm wondering if we could separate, actually maybe ask for some procedural guidance, Mr. Chair. With respect to 294 Prospect Point Road, I think it warrants some further discussion. I'm just wondering, would we separate that out from the minutes? I guess
Madam Clerk, I think that'll work, won't it? Perfect. So why don't we look at the first recommendation and have comments on that? We'll vote on that separately. The first recommendation is the extension of the agreement, 15% for police services. Telecommunication tower?
Deal with the first two.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. So we're going to receive the minutes and look at the authorization of the extension of the agreement. Okay, in the first motion? Councillor Noyes? We're 12.2.1. Last page of the yellow sheet. At the top, got it there, land committee minutes. All right, so we've got the recommendation that we receive the minutes and the extension of the police service telecommunication. Clear? Good. Any comments on those two? All those in favor? Opposition? Carried. That'll bring us then to the request for 294 Prospect Point Road, and Councillor Dubanow, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I reviewed the photos provided by the individual who lives there, and thank you very much for your presentation earlier. It helped provide some context. I do also know the area, kind of looked at Street View here. My big concern with this, though, is the location of the fire hydrant. You know, if it wasn't for that, and maybe we can have some discussion here on what we can do about that. You know, with respect to gardens and other things at the front of a property, I mean, you know, it's that fine line. You know, we expect individuals to maintain, mow the lawns there, you know, cut their ditches down, all that other kind of stuff. My feeling towards plantings are, as long as it doesn't affect infrastructure or alter the ability for the town to use the property. I know we have a policy, but at the same time, I'm surprised anyone would call in to lay a complaint about it. But my concern is that fire hydrant. It is located behind there's a pillar there, there's some plantings, and I mean, yeah, you could put up a, you know, like one of those reflective posts, but when you're talking fires, you know, where you're talking seconds can make the difference. So I'm just wondering, maybe we could have a discussion here if there's a way we can work around that, or if we can come to an agreement with the owner to deal with the safety aspect. And then maybe just let sleeping dogs lie on everything else. Maybe just enter into an encroachment agreement or something if at all possible. Because I'd hate to see someone have to rip out a garden when we expect individuals to, you know, mow the lawns and maintain it anyway. So I'm just putting that out there. You know, my colleagues may have a different thought or maybe some ideas, but that's kind of my thought on it.
Councillor Noyes?
Thank you, Councillor Flagg. I'm not familiar with this particular, I haven't driven past it, so I'm not that. So my first question is this on a road allowance or is this just on a boulevard?
On the boulevard.
Okay, so the example that the land committee uses is in regards to that staff have, like council has denied it in the past in regards to encroachment. The example they gave, I'm not saying it's the only example, was on a road allowance, which I think is quite different than a boulevard. If I should drive through town and I should be looking for flower beds on boulevards, I think I'd find many that would probably be on town property. My biggest concern is safety, and absolutely the fire chief has to weigh in on this. If there's a way that we can make it safe, then I think that's the direction we should go. Again, I wouldn't even go with an encroachment agreement. I don't think she really requires an encroachment agreement if it's just flowers on the boulevard in this case, particularly because there's many people who have flowers on the boulevard and shrubs on the boulevard that we're not going to start going after them for encroachment agreements as long as they're not producing a site problem or something like that. I don't think we want to go there. And I don't know if members of council, whether this council, the last council, the council before, we had a situation where it was on a road allowance and on the Niagara Boulevard, and the person built had lovely shrubs and trees and ornamental shrubs, I think, and took great care of them over years and years and years. Beautiful, beautiful shrubs, beautiful trees. And there was a complaint by a neighbor who thought that wasn't good. I think the council decision at that day, which I think was the right one, is that you don't have to take anything down, but it's public property. So if somebody wants to come and sit there and put up a picnic, plan a picnic, that they're more than welcome to just to tear out the shrubs because somebody else planted them on town property. And that's not the direction we took, but it was very known to the neighboring property who had planted all these shrubs that it was public, and the public would have free access to that area. They don't have to ask permission. They can go there and do what and enjoy the area. That's how we came to I don't think we even asked for an encroachment agreement.
Thank you.
For that. So anyway, so that's my position. I'm not in agreement with the land committee if we can make sure that safety is not an issue.
Understood. Anyone else? I'm going to move over, actually. Director Frost, I think, had an input there.
Thank you, Chair. I just would like to call out that as we have the operation and maintenance of the hydrants, there are requirements for hydrant painting, hydrant flushing. When we do need to get on site, I believe it is a 1.5 meter radius around the hydrant that we usually require to be free and clear of obstructions. So just from the operations and maintenance perspective, let alone the fire requirements, there is that component that we would ideally like to maintain. What that looks like and the mechanism in doing so, I'll leave that up to council. I just wanted to highlight there is that requirement as well.
Appreciate that input as well. Other comments? Councillor Christensen.
Thank you, Chair. I am familiar with, and I don't know the measurement. I wasn't aware of the measurement that Acting Director Frost just mentioned. But the pillar, to be very specific, the pillar is about 2/3 of a meter high. So it is, when the term pillar is used, I think of something 6 or 8 feet tall or more. But anyway, it is less than a meter. It's about 2/3 of a meter. So that's one issue. And the barring comment and measurement, the fire hydrant itself is quite visible as you're driving or walking south on Prospect Point Road. So there is a visibility, and there is a distance. I don't know what it is. I wasn't aware of the measurements till now, but that is, from an aesthetic perspective and sort of tying into Councillor Noyes' comments, it's quite attractive. So, and it does not impinge on the roadway. So plowing in the winter and that kind of thing, not a problem.
Thank you, Councillor. Your Worship.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the photograph of the situation here, and there's 4 pillars across the front of this garden. I'm presuming, and maybe this could be clarified, that if there's a fire hydrant, there are water lines underground. Is that correct?
Director Foss?
Yes, there would be a water service going from the main underground underneath the, I believe, boxwood hedge, and there would be a valve in the ground between the water main on the road and the fire hydrant somewhere within that.
Right. So there have been occasions where we have had requests for encroachments on streets. Some of them have been in Crystal Beach. Some of them, in fact, because there's some quite narrow roads there, which we have denied. I don't believe that we've ever permitted an encroachment without an agreement. So I certainly, if this goes in that direction, I would think that we would want an agreement. But you know, this is an example that is completely contrary to what we've done to date. And we did many occasions when we were opening up the waterfront windows along Lake Erie, required people to remove walls that had been in place for literally decades because they were on private property and this is area that's subject to the public. This may be a different situation, and I appreciate that the owner did provide the town permission to run an easement for drainage. You know, maybe that's a circumstance that distinguishes this from others, but you know, I think the policy should be consistent. Some people may think that it's consistency in policy isn't important. I think it is, and so I have some sympathy for the property owner. But this is an obstacle to get to a fire hydrant, and if the water line ever needed to be replaced, this garden's done. And so I don't know whether we replace the garden because we have to repair the water line, or whether the owner is told that you just can't put can't have this type of encroachment. So I'm going to support the recommendation, but I hear what my colleagues are saying.
Councillor Noyes, I'll go back to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I can appreciate the mayor's comments. Again, one size doesn't fit all, and we have to look at each situation on its own. We're not talking about walls. If for safety they have to remove the pillars, then they have to remove the pillars. I know when I had a discussion with Gloria earlier today, she said that the fire people did actually mention to her, you know, if there's a fire truck or something, we're going to drive right through the garden. And that's fine. And she said, well, if they have to, they have to. I don't think she's worried about anybody destroying the garden. Out of necessity, again, if there's no encroachment agreement, it's public property, so the town can do whatever they want on that property. Like I said, I don't even think there should be an encroachment agreement. So again, I don't think the person is worried about the garden being destroyed for the right purposes. Again, that part I don't agree with the mayor.
Got it. Thank you. Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering, is there any information on these? I know pillars might be the wrong word. They're the stone, decorative stones. Do we have any information on them? Are they a permanent fixture? Are they embedded into the ground, or are they something that, you know, maybe 2 strong people could pick up and move? Because I'm thinking that might be the crux of the issue here is, you know, decorations and modifications. When it comes to the issues of planting, I mean, my thought is I don't even know why this is an issue, because you know, anyone can drive on grass, and you know, the fire truck can drive through a bush, you know, and we expect individuals to maintain the grass and everything else in front of their homes. And you know, there's been issues in the past where, you know, ditches have been a contentious issue about requiring maintenance of them. So it's kind of an odd situation where we expect individuals to maintain the boulevard or their property. But then, you know, if an individual, you know, takes advantage of that additional, you know, portion of the road allowance that forms their lawn to put some plantings, and I get where the mayor is coming from, because you have to be consistent in policy, but that might be something that we need to look at, because there's a big difference between, you know, some plants and some flowers and a flower bed and, you know, putting up like a shed or something like that on the road allowance. So I mean, if they're not permanent fixtures, if they aren't embedded into the ground, if a vehicle bumps into them, if they're just going to knock over, and then it becomes a dented bumper rather than something serious, causing harm. I mean, that's my thought on this. If we have to remove the pillars, and then that's fine. I can understand that. If they have to cut down the flowers, 2 meters around the fire hydrant, that's fine. I just don't know why we're having complaints about plantings on a boulevard. And I've had so many individuals raise with me how frustrated they are about being required to maintain the boulevard in front of their home that forms the road allowance. I cannot tell you the times I've been yelled at about, deep ditches and needing to cut them and deal with all that. And it seems like that we're sending two messages here. We're saying, oh, you have to maintain it. Oh, but, don't make it too nice, because if you make it too nice, then, we're going to tell you to remove it. So I'm conflicted here. And that's where I'm a little frustrated why this was even raised. I'm of the opinion, just if the policy needs to change, then the policy needs to change. But I think it's, dare I say this, I think it's almost silly. Road allowances are one thing. We have a waterfront strategy. We have a policy to encourage access to the waterfront. We've had issues in the past where individuals have, put up fences, they've put up, hedge lines and everything to kind of make it uninviting and to discourage individuals from using the road allowances. This is a boulevard that does not impact anything. And even if you look at the neighbor's property, they've paved over their boulevard and turned it into what I can assume would be parking. So, this is things individuals do. You drive through Crescent Park, you're going to see plenty of examples of this, where individuals have done this with their ditches, made them look nice even though they're on the road allowance. I just, of all the things for a council to deal with, I understand the policies there. I don't want to, besmudge anyone for doing their job and raising the issue with council, but I can think of much better use of our time than to get to argue over a garden. Yeah. Okay. So those are my thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
A little late for that. We've been 30 minutes at it now. So, Councillor Lewis.
Can't let it go on this far and not jump in on this one. Just want to mention a couple of comments, and that is the easement agreement for the drain. The individual did help the municipality and the neighborhood considerably by taking water being directed at them to help out the neighborhood. I do have the concern about the hydrant, but I've seen in other areas where they put the little, meter-high stick on it that's fluorescent, and it tells them where they're looking for. I did do a drive-by today, and the hydrant is visible. I am going to support the recommendation to move forward with this, but I do share Councillor Dubanow, thank you, long night, concern about the amount of time we've spent on this, because I could probably drive around my ward and find half a dozen hoarder houses and garbage houses where we have spent no time focusing on what is a eyesore for the municipality. I'm just going to leave it at that, and it will be what it will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. It came up as a CAO report, so CAO, do you have anything to add to this?
Through you, just in the land committee meeting, we were given some confidential information from our law clerk. One of the items that I just want to point out is there are some implications with the contravention to the Ontario Fire Code with the issue that was raised here. So there are specific parameters that were communicated back in 2017 to the landowner, the clearance around there. And I guess maybe just to clarify, the issue of vegetation, although around the fire hydrant needs to be cleared, the issue is less about the vegetation. I think the issue that came to the land committee, which culminated in the recommendation we have, is there are concrete pillars, quite permanent, on the right-of-way. And I think those were some of the obstruction that may have precipitated the complaint that was investigated. But short of anything else, we do need to ensure that the Ontario Fire Code is followed, and the fire chief has been consulted and has made some recommendation for the vegetation around that part of the fire hydrant to be removed.
Thank you. And last word, Councillor Noyes.
Yes, I'm hearing that. How old is the tree that's there? I'm serious. How old is the tree that's there?
I wasn't at its last birthday party. I'm not really sure.
The town tree. So which came first, the hydrant or the tree? I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm just saying which.
There's no tree near the hydrant.
There's no tree by the hydrant. So then why does the land committee want the tree removed?
Shrub.
Well, the land committee called it a tree. I'm just
not
going by
in
that.
what we're looking at here. Flower beds, brick pillars, garden, lighting, and wiring.
Oh, okay, fine. So there is no tree. So the land committee referred to a tree that's really a shrub.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just looking at the request here tonight. Anything else? Okay, so we'll deal with the recommendation as written. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, so that's defeated. Well, I can't, there's nothing to amend now.
I'd like to move an issue related to this.
Madam Clerk, can we have an additional motion made under this?
I would recommend that, so because denying, or the motion that was lost was to deny the encroachment request. So just because you have two negatives doesn't make a positive saying that you approve the request. So I would recommend if you would like
A motion, no. Thank you. Councillor Dubanow, I'll yield the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just some advice from the CAO a moment ago. I'd like to move that we refer this matter back to staff for further clarification on what would be required regarding the matters he just mentioned.
Okay, so just on a point of
Yep.
order, there's nothing to refer back to staff because this was defeated. So if you want to do that, you should bring it up under new business, which is the very next item, so that staff then has something that they can work on.
No, I'll raise it under new business. I learn something new every day. Thank you.
Okey-doke. Anything else then? Okay, so we will move on to new business. Councillor Dubanow.
Thank you very much, Mr. Flagg. Councillor Flagg, my apologies, Mr. Chair. I would like to refer this back to staff for input on the matters that the CAO just raised.
So just for
So by it,
yeah.
Pardon me, Mr. Chair? Sorry?
by it, you mean what?
Long night. The matters raised regarding the encroachment agreement on the Prospect Point property, or the encroachment issue.
On 294 Prospect Point Road, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Any comments on that?
When's that come back?
Coming back,
It was a referral, so I didn't have a specific date, but we can,
Next committee meeting.
yeah.
okay. Next committee meeting, would that be okay, clerk?
If I could recommend that it be referred back to the land committee, and then it would come back to the subsequent committee after that.
Madam Clerk, you go with all that? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Councillor Noyes, germane to this?
Yes. Is that,
Go.
okay, going with Councillor Dubanow, is that we're sending it back to, I guess now, the Land Committee, in that we want advice in regards to how you can maintain the safety and maintain as much vegetation as possible, that be the goal.
Yep. Okay, anything further? Good. So that's your motion. You're going to vote, right? All those in favor? Opposition? Seeing none, pass. Anything under new business, anything further? Any inquiries? Business status report, any questions? Seeing none, your worship, back to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Flagg. That takes us to item 13, which is a closed session matter. Can I have a motion to go into closed session? Councillor Lewis, any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Okay, so we're back in the council chambers after we went into closed session to deal with a item relative to Waterland and Poverty Bay. And Councillor Lewis, you have the resolution for us to rise and reconvene into open session.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself. The council does now rise and reconvene from closed session at 8:18 p.m. with report that council authorizes staff to proceed as directed in closed session.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That takes us to scheduling of meetings. Any meetings anyone wishes to announce? Then, Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, Your Worship, I'm just waiting for my calendar to come up here, but it's not, I'm going to do it off the fly right now, and the clerk can, oh, you know what? Lucky me, it just came up. I'm going to have to pull back on that because I don't see it on the calendar right now. I apologize, Your Worship.
Fair enough. Anyone else? If not, then Councillor Dubanow, I'm going to go back to you for your usual duties.
Yes, Your Worship, I'd like to move that council and committee adjourn at 8:19 p.m. this evening.
All those in favor? That is you. All those opposed? Okay. So it's fair enough. We're going to be leaving, but Councillor Lewis, feel free to stay.